So I'm so excited to have a chat with you. Your book is incredible. But one sort of thing that really kept coming up for me throughout the book, like it was just this series of different questions, which I think have so many implications. Are about the nature of time. Yeah, I just think that there's so many implications of that, and we understand time as being this arrow forward, this arrow that moves forward in time, and that 9 a.m. comes after 8 a.m. comes after 7 a.m. Is that the truth of time? Like, what do we know about time? What don't we know about
I
time?
don't think anyone has a definitive answer yet. I think that, like, even if you look in physics, there's all these different theories, especially for science. We use the assumption that time is linear and it moves forward. That's how it seems to us, right? That's our perception of it. So we use that in our assumptions for science. But I think when I was digging into the book, as you mentioned, I was looking into these theories. There were so many different theories about what space time actually is and if it works in the way that we think that it does. And since I came across so many different models, I ended up thinking, oh, okay, well, we don't really have it figured out. I think we have our perception of time, which seems to move forward. Like some of these experiences, like you mentioned, precognition kind of point to the possibility that maybe it isn't actually the way we perceive it. Maybe it's can move backwards. Maybe we have access to other points in time, and yeah, it might be different. And like I said, I think the experiences like precognition or precognitive dreams, things like that, they kind of point to there's probably a misunderstanding on our part of how it works.
If time isn't what we assume it to be, this changes everything about how we age, how we make decisions, I don't even know where to begin with unpacking that.
There was an experiment I wrote about students who like studied after a
Mm,
test, like
mm,
did
mm.
better on the test. It was something wild like that. And the implication being that your actions, like after an event have happened, actually affect the event, which
Yeah.
makes no sense to us. Like if you're thinking of the normal mainstream paradigm, that that sounds crazy. But there was that study, and there have been some other studies too looking at that. And you hear that like kind of in the spiritual, I guess, space that yeah, the future can affect the past, or the present can affect the past. Like you said, it's super wild. I mean, we probably can't even fully comprehend the implications, right?
That study that you were just talking about, it's interesting you brought that up. I mean, that's a really there's quite some wild findings from that study, and that was the point in the book where I wrote down this question about time, like big circle around the word time. Yeah, because again, like that's again like bucking everything we know about cause and effect. You think that you study for a test beforehand, and depending on what kind of test it is, you're going to rote learn all the things, and then you're going to write them out. But in that particular study, it seemed like the people would do that rote learning of the subjects afterwards. And when they measured it across like a lot of different people, because maybe actually I'm going to totally like mess this up if I try and understand how it worked. And I had to read over it a couple of times. But if you can remember, like what was the method of that study? How did they determine that people were actually getting better results when they studied afterwards across all the people that were sampled in that study?
Like they had all the students take a test, and then they had one group like really study their test afterward. Um, I don't know how they measured like how well they studied it, but they had them study it and like review their answers kind of, and like see what they did right and wrong. And then the other group didn't do that. So they took the test, but then afterward they didn't look at their test, or they didn't study it. And then I think they did this a few times. That I'm not sure of. I think they did it a few times. Um, and that's for statistical significance to see if it stands. But basically, when they compared the groups' test scores, they found, and they didn't choose the students based on their test scores, right? They like pre-selected them before the test, had them take the test, and then whatever. So the group that studied, as a group, their scores were higher than the group that didn't study the test after they had taken it. And
Mm.
that was statistically significant. So it was at levels above chance.
It's like it's inexplicable, but there's the science is there, right? To be like these phenomena do exist. So what do we do?
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's why we have these experiments, because if you were to just hear that and it doesn't match your experience of time, then it's easy to brush it off and be like, that's impossible or that's incorrect. But that's why we need the experiments, like clever experiments like that one, to show, with statistics, like it actually is above chance. And
Thanks so much for making it to the end of the episode. I trust you had a good time, so let's stay in touch. I have Instagram, I have TikTok, I have Substack. All of those links can be found in the description, and I would absolutely love to hear from you. I also really enjoy when you get involved in the comments on the episode. It lets me know what you're thinking, what's inspiring you, what your questions are, what guests I might want to get on next. So please feel free to hit me up in the comments. You can hit the like and subscribe button. There's a little bell button too, which means that you'll get notified when I drop a new episode, which at the moment is twice weekly. And if you really love this content, then please buy me a coffee. There is a link for you to donate to the show in the description as well. A little goes a long way, and it really does support me to bring the conversations to your eyes and your ears that answer the burning questions. Well, no promises that we'll answer the burning questions, but at least we'll be asking them together. So buy me a coffee or 2 or 3. I'll take whatever I can get. All right, see you on the next one.